It's very nice to have you here, Boris. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will introduce you in a minute. Let me briefly, start with the AMA. I want to say hello to absolutely everybody joining us, tuning in. It's always a pleasure to have you here, guys. Thank you so much. Because as I said, without you guys, we couldn't be doing this. So we really, really appreciate you here. Of course, as you know, we're also doing live streaming this AMA on our Gate Live platform. So you can go there and check it out for sure. And as you guys know, we will have some rewards ready for you. We have rewards for new users who join and watch this AMA. And there is also a reward for our all-time loyal users for sure. If you're a new user, remember you need to, even if you joined Gate.io today, you just need to do a deposit, at least $50 deposit on the day of your registration, and then you will be up for the rewards for sure. There is also some red packages, in our live show, in our live stream. There's airdrops there. There's a lucky winner's draw in which you will be able to be part of a prize pool of 16096 CCD, which is the token of our guest today, of Concordium today. So that is a very nice number for a prize pool. So guys, don't miss that opportunity. And finally, also, if you share this AMA on your social media, you also stand a chance to participate in a prize pool of 8,048 CCD. So that, once I said that, which I think is always very nice to hear from all of you guys tuning in, and once we have started this AMA and there's a little bit more time for more people to join, I just want to say once again, thank you, Boris, for being here. It's an absolute pleasure to talk to you today and that you took the time to join us.
Thank you, Marina. Absolute pleasure to be here and to speak to all of you. Looking forward to it.
Oh, for sure. I have some questions ready for you, and later on we will do some questions from the community. So I hope you're ready. Sure. I know you are, but yeah, I bet you have done your exercises this morning to be ready.
Exercises, yeah. There is fortunately no video. If you would see me, I definitely need to do more exercise. That's definitely for sure.
Well, okay, so then let me officially introduce you. Your name is Boris Bohrer-Bilowitzki, if I'm correct. I hope I said it right.
It's a quite pressure name.
Yeah. And you're the CEO of Concordium, which is obviously our guest today. So it's an absolute pleasure once again to have you here. And obviously my first question of this AMA session, because I think it's a nice way to start. I think it would be great if you could give us a small summary, a quick introduction about yourself, and also why did you choose to join Concordium, and what is that excites you about the project? What is the vision of the project and what Concordium is trying to solve?
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, about myself, I like long walks on the beach. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm originally from Liechtenstein, been in finance my entire life, and done all sorts of stuff. Ended up in London somehow. I actually wanted to open a restaurant here, which is interesting. That didn't happen. And then we started a company which became rather sizable. It's called Copper, which is by now one of the largest custodians and prime brokerage infrastructure providers in the world. Built that out over the course of like 8 years. And, like any business, they grow. And at some point you kind of get to the point where it kind of outgrew you a little bit, specifically like the entire founding team. It was then the time in order to look at something else. And this is where Concordium came along. I knew about the project for a while because they were a client, and also became kind of friendly with the founder over the time, which is Lars. Lars is also the co-founder, and for 20 years he was the CEO of Saxo Bank, which is, you know, one of the first online banks. And I kind of, you know, philosophically speaking, I was very disappointed with the way that the industry has evolved. And being, you know, one of the biggest custodians, you kind of see a lot of the things that are you would hope to go a little bit better, and you're being presented with a lot of the problems. You know, we had a shit ton of foundations that were clients, and they always came to us to kind of solve for specific problems. But then you go through the various cycles. You know, we started the business in 2018, copper, and then you kind of had the ICO boom, and then of course the crash, and then it was 2020, 21, where you had all the DeFi, NFT, punks and apes. You know, it was a cool time situation. But then it kind of got missing, and we've been speaking about real world adoption for a long time. And I do this at least once or twice a year, that I read the Satoshi white paper just to kind of remind myself of why this industry exists. And if anybody has done this, I mean, it's only like 9 pages, whereas the last one is just the abstract. But in the appendix. But in the abstract, the very first sentence is a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash. And that was the thing that actually drew me into the entire space. And Concordium is quite uniquely positioned. Like, not a lot of people know about it yet, because of course, the way that it was positioned in 2021 when the TGE happened, and was very much focused around a specific USP that didn't necessarily fly at the time. And that is identity. Identity and compliance ultimately are the ones that will allow us for proper real world adoption. The way that Concordium has done it has always fascinated me, because it's on the one side ID based, but privacy preserving. So actually the use of zero knowledge proofs was implemented correctly, unlike with many, if I would dare to say, nearly all other projects out there. And that opens the floodgates if adopted by a specific space. And when I looked at Concordium as a project, I kind of thought that, given the fact of how this was done and how the tech stack was in existence, there were only a few things that were missing in order to make this great. And, you know, sometimes in life, you kind of can be a little bit too early. And I think this very much applies to Concordium as well. So the way that we do things at Concordium, just to kind of give you a little bit of a glimpse, anybody that wants to kind of go and have a look while you have to listen to my voice, go to concordium.com, and it gives you a very, very detailed overview. We're very much focused, well, we purely focus on PayFi, payments, specifically stablecoins. And in and around this, of course, identity plays a massive role. We are, in this sense, solving for a lot of the problems that the space has seen over the course of several years, quite frankly, and solve for them in a way that nobody else can. So when it comes to this, you know, to kind of give you an overview, protocol level ID, moving away from smart contracts. I'm sure, like, with regards to what you're going to ask me later, we can dive deeper into that topic, because I'm not a fan of smart contracts acting in any shape or form as a custodial function. They should only enforce conditionality. But with the ID itself, it allows you for all sorts of problems to be solved in and around geofencing, age verification payments, etc., etc. So we are the chain for stablecoins. And you will hear quite a lot about this in the coming weeks specifically. So yeah, at the end of the day, when it comes to blockchain adoption, it needs scalable identity solutions that ensure at the same time privacy and compliance, just like in everyday life. I can't just rock up to a bank and say, I would like to have an account and I would like to access those services. And they go like, who are you? And they go, none of your business. That's just not how it works. So we've been hearing about real world adoption for a long time. And I wholeheartedly can say, having seen a lot over the course of the last 8-9 years, that Concordium is the only chain in a way that can solve for that problem and the adoption the way that it would only be able to be done. So I hope that kind of gives a little bit of an overview. Maybe we dive a little bit deeper, but it's quite difficult to cram it all into 1 minute.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you so much, Boris, for all that you tell us, and also a little bit of the overview of Concordium, because it is really interesting, of course. And it's also interesting what you mentioned find at the end that in which Concordium is based. I also wanted to ask you, because from what I've seen from Concordia, and your approach to blockchain is also built on trust and credibility, which is obviously in our industry is really, really important. So with, there's a lot of concern for that, for credibility in crypto, with things that have happened. We've seen it, unfortunately, with something recently like the Bybit hack and other things like the meme coin crazy around. So how Concordium differentiate itself in creating more reliable blockchain and building that trust and credibility?
Yeah, I mean, it's always like I think I said this earlier. Crypto has a little bit disappointed me quite significantly. Specifically around, like you mentioned it, meme coins. We built this wonderful technology over the course of the last, decade. And the usage right now is, I actually saw a tweet, I don't know, a couple of months ago, where it says it's the year 2030 and every single word in the English dictionary is now a tradable coin. I understand of why people want to do it. It is a high-base speculative ecosystem, and I understand this. At the same time, I also want to say I absolutely hate I hate that side of the world. If I log on and I see Dogecoin at number 6 or 7 or whatever it is, it just makes me question a lot of things. If we really want to talk about the fact of like what blockchain can be there for, meaning for our everyday life, when you rock up and you what actually makes the world go round? Let's basically go there. And what makes the world go round is payments. You get up in the morning, you have to pay your bills for your rent, or you have to pay your mortgage. You go and get a coffee, you go and buy some clothes, you are buying some shit on Amazon, whatever it is. Everything is a mean of exchange, an exchange of value. And when it comes to this, one of the core hurdles of why we haven't seen that adoption, because like pure from a technological standpoint, it could have been solved already, is the simple fact that for some reason we have moved in this bubble that we have created. And congratulations, everybody, it's a 2.8 or $2.9 trillion bubble now. It's fantastic, this ecosystem, but for some reason it doesn't really scale further. We kind of have missed and tried to jump on the train of real world adoption. But one of the key problems is because of the way that it was built in the initial state, a lot of it is based around, and people surely have followed this, layer twos, rollups, anything around smart contracts. My specific, and you kind of mentioned Bybit, right? Ben is a good friend, one of the early adopters also of Copper's ecosystem that we have built. And one of the key problems is that you have smart contracts, like I initially said, I think, that fulfill some sort of a custodial function, whereas they shouldn't be doing anything else but enforce conditionality. That's what a smart contract should be doing. It shouldn't hold value. It shouldn't be the point of entry when it comes to sending value, sending money from A to B. It's an absolutely fucking stupid idea on many fronts. And it really comes down to the fact, when you look at it on that front, the idea of smart contracts acting on that level, you kind of need to take it actually a layer back instead of a layer on top. So it would need to be able to transact and program money on a base layer. And it's as simple as, you go on Google or Perplexity or whatever people are using these days and go like, Google blockchain hacks. You'll find no results. You go and find smart contracts hacks, you'll find a plethora of results, billions of dollars that are being stolen, lost, whatever else it is, because money value physically sits in those smart contracts. So the way that we differentiate ourselves is, on the one side, taking it back to a simple level, whereas of course when you look at the regulatory landscape, compliance is the key thing, as horrible as the word is, that allows you to interact in a real world fashion when you go out and buy your coffee. when you go and buy something on Amazon, when you go and order something on Deliveroo. At that point, you're exchanging value. You're exchanging money in the widest sense. And we've been hearing programmable and smart money for a long time, but nobody has actually solved for it. And the way that we have done it in and around identity, in and around what we solve for in terms of like this whole smart contract problem, what we call PLTs, so protocol level tokens, allows you to issue your stablecoin, for a better word, natively on the chain. This is not an L2. This is natively on the chain alongside CCD and alongside all the others that choose to issue on Concordium. And at that point, when you then mix the identity in, you suddenly have accountability, the ability to prove and verify without exposing sensitive information. And we can go into this if you would like to, if you guys would like to understand a little bit more of how we do this. And that by default creates the trust in the system. If you would now go to the merchants and say for some reason they have to interact with a smart contract, and you explain to me that value is sitting there for whatever payment it is, it can be a simple peer-to-peer one of just saying I want to buy a coffee and the good and service is exchanged immediately. But most of the payments globally are not done in that way. They have a time component. They are delivery based. So think of trade finance, for example. But this is how we solve for the core problem of trust and credibility, by allowing you to have privacy preserving ID on chain, whereas moving away from the need of smart contracts.
I see. Okay. Well, Boris, thank you so much for explaining it, because deep inside, it's not an easy concept, right? To even more for those of us who have been around for a while, and all we know we could say all we know is smart contracts. Is like a little bit of a new concept, a new thing to understand.
It became a necessary evil, Marina. That's basically it. And that's the problem that needs to be solved. You don't need complexity, you need simplicity. And the space is currently trying to solve for a problem that they created themselves. We need to move away from that. We need to take it in its simplest form, just like Satoshi wrote it in the white paper, saying it needs to be a peer-to-peer electronic cash, with of course certain features which we have that nobody else has. The good thing is nobody knows us yet, so
no, true. You're going back to the basics, and it's really, really interesting. In that sense, my next question is also related to a little bit of, like you mentioned, the adoption and the what you mentioned at the beginning. At the very end of the day, it comes to what you pay every day, right? You need to actually be able to make it accessible. Exactly, pay for it.
Yeah.
So you guys at Concordium are positioning yourself as a key enabler of PayFi, whereby it will enable the stable coins to be launched at a protocol level. So how will Concordium make stablecoin power PayFi while also at the same time driving that real world adoption, guys?
I mean, look, it's a good question. Look, at the end of the day, what it comes down to, all those players that are in the market, like you know them all, like the top names from Tether to Circle, etc., etc. Like all those guys have been trying to solve for this. And like to speak about Tether for a second, one of the things is you actually see a massive increase in stablecoin adoption, specifically in South America. Those guys are just stepping away. Not only there, also Africa. You see an absolute rise because also the base currencies are extremely volatile. So they kind of step away from this and would like to anchor on the dollar, which is also it's a big topic in and around geopolitical discussions that are currently ongoing. Maybe some of you have heard about the whole topic of de-dollarization. The BRICS nations are staying against this. And this is a way in order to kind of crawl back on or claw back some power, if you want to call it like this, and kind of cement the dollar as one of the means of exchanges and one of the base currencies, or the base currency in the world. But the way that we do this, so when we say we would like to solve for PayFi, just like I said, go to our homepage and you see it there very prominently at the top and everywhere. It ultimately comes down to what I kind of mentioned earlier. Smart contracts in my view, and I say this proudly, are nothing else but dumb banks. Anything that, also from a custodial, this is my background, having built Copper, this is a multi-billion-dollar company now, and at the end of the day, it comes all down to security. So vulnerabilities, scalability issues, regulatory uncertainties, those are all problems that kind of hinder real world adoption. So just like I said, in and around the adoption on the basis of introducing more risk in the form of a smart contract is not going to help adoption. It's pretty fucking obvious, right? So it only comes down to the fact of saying, like, if we are stripping away those complexities, what can I then do with money? Let's just call it money for the so, because like stable coins, I'm sure you guys are aware of like all the different types, from like non-yield bearing ones to yield bearing ones in the form of synthetics or tokenized money market funds. There are all sorts of solutions out there which are currently not being used, because the actual only use case, if we look at stable coins right now, is that I can go to Gate and I go to all the other global centralized exchanges, and I can trade it against my BTC, my ETH, my SOL, whatever else it is. That's my use case. Or I go DeFi and I do some yield farming, right? Fantastic. That's basically the use case right now. Those guys as well are craving beyond belief to be able to actually have their USDTs, USDCs of this world used in day-to-day use cases. And there is a lot of work that those guys are doing. And there are a lot of complexities and risks that they cannot solve for simply because of the chains that they are currently issued on. I really don't want to shit talk them, because a lot of them, of course, have their validity, at least in that $2.8 trillion market bubble. But at the end of the day, if you really want to talk a real world adoption, 2.8 trillion is a drop in the ocean in terms of the value that is being transferred on the day-to-day basis. So if we're moving away from this, and why we are actually the only address, and there is some impending news over the course of the next couple of weeks that kind of cement this further, it's not just me telling you this, is the fact of, number one, move away from smart contracts when you issue money. So the PLTs are the only way in order to do proper programmable smart money. That's the only way to do it, meaning that you launch it natively on a blockchain. In this case, of course, Concordium. No other chains are able to do this. That kind of go hand in hand with, other perks in and around, finality is extremely important. So it needs to be fast. So we are one of the fastest chains, well, in the world with regards to, finality. We're somewhere between 2 to 4 seconds. Our TPS is at 2000. This is people. The interesting thing was, this whole narrative of like real world adoption and the necessity of high TPS was driven at the time in 2020, 2021. The more TPS, the more it is important. But at the end of the day, when you look at it, one of the highest, if it's not bots and any sort of stupid DeFi pot to pot transactions, you are somewhere in the region of about 1,500 to 2,000. That's about as max as it goes. If you look at real world transactions per second, like in the form of Visa, 2,000 is more than enough, which means we would have more than proved. But theoretically, we're looking into this already in terms of scaling this if you integrate the tech stack horizontally. But that's just on the side. If you then take the next piece to it, identity. So when I constantly say identity, and this is the core USP of Concordium, if I have the ability, number one, to issue my money natively on a chain, which means it can only move to A to B, and smart contracts are there in order to enforce conditionality, whatever it is. I have received my pizza. I have received my piece of fucking plastic that I bought on Amazon. At that point, payment is released, right? So that's the whole PLT smart contract. Let's get rid of smart contract situation. If I then sprinkle in identity, you find yourself to open the floodgates even further. And what I mean there, for example, is things like verify and buy. Age verification is important. Like, unfortunately, I'm a smoker, which means I remember the times years ago when I had to go to those, and I don't know where all the listeners are here, but at least in Austria and in Switzerland, it was that way, that you basically rocked up to a machine, you had to insert your bank card, which by default proved, because I had to onboard in a bank first in order to get a bank card, that I'm over 18, so I can buy cigarettes. It's the same notion here, except the way that we do this is that all of this is basically on chain. And I need to caveat this because people are going to freak out if they think that if you scan your passport or scan your driver's license or whatever else it is, that your document is sitting on chain. That's absolutely not the case of how we've done it, which is where the complexity comes in. From our side, things like this take a fucking long time to build. So the way that it works is that you simply verify as soon as you open up a wallet. You need to verify your identity, which is like, scan your, just like the way you onboard on an exchange these days. It's absolutely no different. So there is a plethora of IDPs on the back end, which are identity providers. It's all the same that the industry uses. There are words that are getting louder with regards to decentralized IDPs, but let's leave that away. So they verify that the document is legit. And at that point, the wallet, meaning also the chain, does not hold the copy of your passport. All that happens is that an identity object is being issued that is attached to the wallet. And the identity object basically just says name, date of birth, whatever, residency. You can go, as wide and detailed as you want. And that is attached to my wallet as soon as I create an account. So if I now interact, let's say I need to buy alcohol online, right? So I rock up and the thing asks me, are you over 18? It's not just a button that I push and say, yes, agree. It basically is, okay, I pay for it. So the wallet on a zero knowledge proof basis is being pinged from the chain saying like, hey, are you over 18? Are you allowed to do this? Yes, birth date, correct, thumbs up, transaction can go through. All of that is happening in milliseconds, right? So what happens now is, which is one of the key problems, look at what happened with like age verification for social media, all sorts of, you just need to open the newspaper. It's becoming more and more of a problem. And we are the only solution there. So to kind of recap, smart programmable money on the base chain, on the layer one, number one. And then number two, also on the layer one, the ability to identify myself and then interact within an ecosystem, whatever that is. If you put those things together, there is no other chain on the planet that is able to do this even close to the way that we are, which allows us then to power PayFi accordingly. And the way that we chose to do this is by focusing on stablecoin issuers.
I see. Okay, thank you, Boris. It's actually really interesting, and the way you explain it make it easier to understand how you connect the PayFi with the real world. Like you gave us even some examples, and it's easier to understand that way. Yeah.
I mean, it really is as my credo has always been, blockchain is here to be used. It's not here to be understood. If I ask everybody on this call right now, if they go to Starbucks and buy their coffee, what is the infrastructural thing that is happening in the back end in order to complete that transaction? Number one, it's an absolute clusterfuck. Let me tell you this. Like, if you've been in finance for a long time and you try to understand of how things are being done, like coffee is actually quite simple. If you think of buying some Apple shares, like stock, if you're trading derivatives, if you are like, whatever the interaction is an old antiquated system. And this is what I bought into when moving into the space. I was interested in figuring out of how blockchain can be used, but we're going down the route of like complex unnecessary, like they're not necessary, in order to find adoption, which we're actually moving away from as a space, instead of kind of turning around and go like, okay, cool innovation around NFTs. The apes and punks were really good fun. Understood, done and dusted. More meme coins, what's the fucking point? Now let's go back and actually use blockchain for what it was originally designed for. And that means that you kind of go this extra mile of simplifying things rather than making them more complex, which also by default means that you're de-risking, which allows real world adoption to happen. It's really simple, Marina. It really is simple. It's complex from a cryptography level, but it's very, very simple in everyday use.
Definitely. I really, really like the way you explain things, because and I really like what you said, like blockchain is here to be used, not only to be understood. So yeah, Great. Okay, Boris, I'm gonna go for the next question because I mean, we could. I know you could definitely be talking for. We could be discussing so many, yeah, topics here as well. So definitely. So yeah, obviously, Concordium has been a project that has been around for a while. And I have kind of two questions here. I wanted to know a little bit about, you know, the team, the Concordium team, and how things have changed, you know, what recently has changed for you, for the project, and for the team, and also what expertise and credibility do the team has to, you know, when building some confidence in the project, and why should the audience or people here should have confidence in Concordium?
Yeah. I mean, it's like one of those double-edged swords, right? Because you kind of look at the coin and specifically the pride, like in anything that happened over the course of the last couple of years, and you kind of go like, well, that must be dead in the water. I kind of wanted to say this earlier, it is a fact of timing as well. I have to say it because I've been on the receiving end of this. Also, when it comes to copper, it was the right timing, which is the only reason why it became like a multi-billion-dollar business now. But apart from a load of cool products and everything else, so that needs to be in place as well. But Concordium has been just simply too early. ID was not something that just flies with all the degens who are still running around and say fuck the central bank while sipping their coffee that they bought with their bank card from Starbucks, which is still a bank, and it's kind of hypocritical to a certain extent. So, what I would like to say in this sense is, when it comes to Concordium, certain things take time. You need to build good stuff. You need to have the right people making decisions. And it was evident to me, simply due to the USP that was there, that it also needs a brand new management, which I kind of took on myself towards the end of last year. I mean, I joined Concordium myself only in September last year. And this is an absolute stellar team that over the course of the last couple of months well, up until Christmas was assembled. You've got Peter Marirosans, who's the CTO. He was the CTO since inception of Quant, like the Quant network. You might know it's like a top 50 or whatever coin. Then the chief commercial officer is actually the first hire that we've done at Copper, part of the early team, which is Mike Milner. He is an absolute genius when it comes to opening up new markets. And on the commercial side, just perfectly positioned. And you might think also that him and me at the same time have quite a nice little black book, a Rolodex of people that over the course of like 8 years with the growth of copper that we can call. So I'm very happy that he joined the quest. Then you have Varun, our chief marketing and growth officer. He always wants to be called chief growth officer. I always say chief marketing. If you're listening, Varun, I'm sorry. He was chief marketing of Tezos. Prior to that, Google did rebrands, did repositioning, like absolutely stellar guy. And then, of course, an entire team that's behind it. Concordium is now 70 people strong, 70 plus actually, I think. A lot of it, of course, are developers. And subsequently, what it kind of got down to was, how do we position the project? Because it didn't look good, right? Like, you look at it and it just didn't look good. The last couple of weeks looked quite good, and that's just the beginning. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to, it just didn't look good. So what we've done is what we discussed earlier, made a completely new strategy for the entire protocol, very much focused on one thing, one niche. Like, success, just to come with another saying, success is something that you attract. It's not something that you pursue. And Concordium kind of failed a little bit over the course of the last couple of years to become attractive. It's been chasing the tail, and the belief also, which partially is true, it's just like there is a certain sequence to it, that if you have a cool USP, that is the one that is going to drive it, and you can kind of behave as if you are Ethereum out of the gate. That's just not how it works. You need to actively hunt things down. You need to be in front of people's faces. in order to make sure to explain that USP and how that solves for their specific problems. And that, of course, paired with the incredible technology that we have. I mean, simply the scientific side of things from Concordium is second to none. Like, you have people like Ivan Damgard, who's like Damgard Merkel. Some of you guys might have heard of Merkel trees, etc. He was one of those guys. The Pedersen commit when it comes to MPC, like Torben Pritz Pedersen, like those are absolute heavyweights when it comes to cryptography that are being revered by, I can tell you, some of the biggest projects and the CEOs there. So at the end of the day, the combination of those plus that new strategy with impending news that you will hear over the course of the next couple of weeks is giving me, like, I have never seen opportunity like this. Let me put it this way, simply from a business perspective, because the uptake is incredible. So we focus purely on real world applications. You know, I'm not trying to solve for things in order to have a CCD based USDT trade against Bitcoin on Gate or Binance or whatever. That's done. You know, you can do this with Tron and with Solana, and good luck to you, right? But when it comes to real world use cases that need specific solutions and de-risked technology, we are the only address out there right now. Just like, you know, with other businesses that have been started, you're sometimes the first, but you won't be the only one. But we're definitely in the pole position here. Like, there is nobody that even comes close from a tech capability the way that we have it. So that's the way I would answer your question of like how you could look at reinstilling confidence in the project. But ultimately, as the English saying is, the proof's in the pudding. I can speak for hours about how great everything is, but at the end of the day, what you want to see is stablecoins actually building on us. And that's all I can say. You should watch this space for the next couple of weeks.
Definitely. Well, now I'm really, really intrigued about what is going to happen in the next couple of weeks for sure. And well, I'll take this opportunity to say to everyone listening and tuning in that you guys, as Boris has mentioned before, you guys can go to concordium.com and check out their website to find out more, but also join them in their communities, in the, you know, their X profile, their Telegram group. They have also a Discord channel, Medium page. So you will definitely need to stay tuned to see what is coming in the next couple of weeks and what is coming in the near future. Okay, Boris, my last question is actually related a little bit to that, because you have been teasing us with this, right? So I wanted to ask you, well, if you could share, maybe you cannot share everything, but maybe you can give us some more, you know, little gifts, a little surprises, or drops, some teasing, a little bit more teasing about what, why is right now the time for Concordium, and also if there's any, you know, things, as you mentioned, in the next couple of weeks, what is that we can expect?
I trust me, like everybody, like I'm in the office right now, everybody's looking at me. I'm sitting in one of those boxes and people are actually looking at me right now. It's like, because they know I wouldn't love anything else but tell you all the names right now. But all I can say is the strategy that we have put in place, it has been verified more than in an incredibly short period of time. Just to kind of put this into perspective, the strategy, the new payments, PayFi stablecoin focused strategy, and like I said, this includes all sorts of stablecoins from non-yield bearing, synthetic, tokenized money markets funds, etc., has been implemented only 48 days ago, or 48 working days ago. So even though, you know, I don't even know what a weekend is these days anymore and what my wife looks like, but at the end of the day, what it comes down to is we've integrated this, or we signed off on it only 48 working days ago, and I cannot wait to share with, and this is going to be a share with the world of what the outcomes of those are already. So in that sense, just look at that, but also kind of take it away from what I would like people to do is actually start thinking, of moving away from the pure speculative crypto bubble, what's the next meme coin, how can I make 20% in a day type shit, and actually think about what blockchain could do if implemented correctly for your everyday life. And I mean with your everyday life of like, how can I make sure that if I sit in a taxi and I pay with a card, that I don't pay 3 or 4% fees for a service that actually shouldn't be costing that? What would it look like if I am doing whatever business you guys are working in right now? If it's like, finance related, the movement of goods and services, commodities, like in and around trade finance, multi-trillion dollars that are being moved and basically locked up on a monthly and yearly basis. What it ultimately comes down to is, at the same time, of course, I would like to talk a little bit about regulation as well. People were like hoping or thinking, and I think a lot of people did, that the ETF approval and Trump are going to be the saving grace for this bull run. Newsflash, peeps, it fucking won't be, because this is old news. What it ultimately comes down to is that once regulation is in place, also in specifically looking into towards the US, and I would like to invite people to have a specific browse through something called the Genius Act, which is very much focused in and around stablecoins and the usage of stablecoins. You will find yourself in a position where you go like, okay, so the speculative side of the world in and around, meme coins, etc., well, to a certain extent could continue, right? I've got no question on this, but at the end of the day, the real driver is going to be that real world adoption, and the rollouts in terms of like what we are doing, like you said, like I think you asked me like the next 6 months or something, right? When it comes to that, the rollout of the PLTs on our side, the zero knowledge proof verification features in and around geofencing, age verification, all the smart money features. And what I mean with smart money is like locking mechanisms. Again, think of your everyday life. You order something on Amazon. Why do you need to pay here and then? Why does Amazon get the money straight away? And then have a complex cost base in order to distribute to a load of suppliers, the delivery drivers, whatever else it is. If you could program that in simply into that money itself, like that's the innovation. So all of that together just cements Concordium's position further. But again, it's not just me saying it, it's ultimately coming down to the adoption of the space to start off with, and then their use cases accordingly. So look out for the new partnerships in and around all sorts of topics that people maybe don't think about, but are happening in the back end of their day-to-day life, which allows them to hopefully get to the point sooner rather than later of them actually using, if for a better word, crypto in their day-to-day life. Because without it, my friends, it won't happen. It just won't happen. It didn't happen for the last 10 years, and there is a reason for it, and people just need to open their eyes and realize that that is the reason. The reason is we went too complicated, we went too speculative, we went too crazy, with some of the things that happen in the space, with all the fraud and everything that happened. At the end of the day, what it comes down to is we need to simplify it down. And just like I said earlier, blockchain is here to be used, not understood. If I ask tons of people here of what the COBOL system, like the COBOL programming language is, which most of the bank's core banking system is built upon, which was built in the 70s, it's still being used, folks, and that's not good. We're in 2025. Surely there is a better way, and the better way is by simplifying it down and make blockchain usable. Concordium is in the pole position in order to do this.
Nice, Boris. Thank you so much. Yeah, it is definitely we need to rethink, because definitely this industry is here to stay. So we need to go back to the basics to make it accessible and be able to be adopted for the majority. Okay, well, thank you so much, Boris, for your answers to my questions. We're going to go now for the questions from the community. So I want to say, first of all, thank you to all of you who dropped your question in the AMA question collecting post. We couldn't be doing this without you guys. And unfortunately, we can only choose 5 questions. But as I said before, you guys can join Concordium community. You guys can join their Telegram chat. You can go. You can join their Discord channel if you have any further questions or you want to discover even more. Just go to concordium.com, to their social media platform, and you can ask there. You can go deeper in there and find out more. So there are 5 questions, as I said, from the community. I'm going to start with one of them. Is by Eritrea Elowen, and the question says, unlike most blockchain ecosystems where stablecoins rely on smart contracts, Concordium issues protocol level token (PLTs). How does this approach enhance security, efficiency, and real-world financial adoption? You have been talking a little bit about it, but maybe you want to go for it.
Yeah, I mean,
Boris.
I think I went into detail on this one. Look, at the end of the day, what people need to remember is smart contracts equal dumb banks. They should not be fulfilling a custodial function or holding value physically at any given point in time. It's cool if you have a lawyer, but would you give your lawyer all your money for your day-to-day work? No. For your day-to-day life? No, not necessarily. You would like to have a different solution for this. So smart contracts should be there to enforce conditionality. So the protocol level token that we have that you can issue natively alongside CCD, like I said, this is not like a layer 2. This is not like some ERC equivalent or TRX equivalent situation. This is natively on the layer 1. Is that way in order to enhance, like, what did you say? Security, I think one of the key things, because it allows you to guarantee that money can only move from A to B or stays put. There is no other option. You can hack the fuck out of anything you want. Money can only either stay put or can move from A to B. That's the whole point. Smart contracts should be there in order to enforce whatever conditionality you want to put in place. So think of, I don't know, let's take what's happening on a daily basis. Oil tankers. There are oil tankers that are shipping oil, crude oil, from one place to the other continuously. Somebody needs to pay for this. So those ships, depending if they go from South America somewhere into Asia, can take months. So somebody is locking up cash right now in the form of like escrow accounts and all sorts of stuff, and releases them whenever you agree. But it's like physical people running around with clipboards and shit. It's just completely archaic. You can program that into that level, right? And basically say, okay, I'm locking that to you. You have a guarantee that the money will come to you simply because the transaction is being signed. And the smart contract does nothing else but track, for example, you stick in a GPS oracle and it tracks the ship, and every 100 meters, more and more money is getting unlocked, for example. So that's basically how that works, right? So when you take that as the core idea of taking away smart contracts, again, I'd love for people to start using this. Smart contracts equal dumb banks. You then go into all the other perks that Concordium has. So, of course, there's a proof of stake chain. You have the Concordium Byzantine fault tolerance, a consensus mechanism, which is based on hot stuff, by the way, for any tech geek out there. You've got 2000 TPS, no problem. Fork-free consensus, which is another important one, which is a lot of people don't understand that, but Concordium doesn't fork. It just basically queues up, goes to sleep as soon as the validators are back going, and there is the two-third piece going. You basically have sorry, somebody was knocking here. So at the end of the day, what it comes down to also is the finality piece, and we are like, compare it to Ethereum. I mean, we're talking several minutes. In our case, we're talking 2 to 4 seconds, which is extremely fast. And then you sprinkle on top ID and anything around, identity, but privacy preserving by using ZKPs of how they actually been conceptualized for, not just as a perk in order to drive value. So at the end of the day, those are the 3 things: smart contracts, dumb banks, PLTs, protocol level tokens, all the wonderful perks of like TPS, finality, etc., plus ID. and that's a very powerful topic in order to make sure that you satisfy for security, efficiency, and ultimately real world adoption.
Nice, nice. Thank you so much, Boris. Actually, you mentioned ID just right now. So there's another question. This time is by Jerry FX5, and it says, how does Concordium balance the need for identity verification with user privacy? What specific technologies are used for ID verification, and what control do users have over their personal data?
So I think I mentioned it briefly somewhere in the
Sure.
middle of my long rants, but at the end of the day, what it comes down to, it's exactly the same way that you onboard to anything else right now. I kind of said that the request or topics of like decentralized IDPs, which are identity providers that just simply verify your ID on the basis of your driver's license or whatever else it is that you send in. So they hold that securely. The chain only receives via the wallet that you create the identity object, which is then verified and is that pendant to any zero knowledge proofs that are happening for whatever use case. So um, I hope that answers the question. Just think of the nota benes of this world, the sum subs, etc. Like those are the ones on Fido. Like those are the ones that are solving for this. We have a specific set, which are, in my opinion, the best out there. And ultimately, what it comes down to is that those IDPs hold that copy of your passport, but it's not on chain, it's not in a smart contract, it's nowhere, except like information of it, meaning like your birth date or whatever else it is, which is directly attached to your wallet. So that's
Yeah.
the specific technologies. I mean, if you want to go deeper of like the tech stack of like Haskell, Rust, and everything else that we're using, sure. But in terms of that, when it comes to your personal data, that is sitting in the form of an identity object in your wallet, and the actual document is sitting securely stored away with an IDP, just like the same way that you're onboarded on Gate or wherever else in the world.
I see. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Thank you, Boris, for explaining. And it's true. You mentioned it a little bit before. Thank you for reminding that to the user. There is another question now by Baird8588, and it says it's asking a little bit about your roadmap. Is if you can share some details about Concordium's roadmap for the next year. It is true that you mentioned 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, there is going to be a lot of things to share with the community. But
Yeah.
what about
So that's next year. Yeah.
the roadmap for the next year?
I mean, what are the core things? I mean, this year is quite. I think the roadmap, the tech roadmap, is going to be shared in detail, and that will kind of coincide with the announcements that are coming of, people thinking just like me that Concordium is the best thing since sliced bread. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is we're thinking in. I think next year, apart from like the things that we are building this year. Next year will be focused in and around scalability, and problems that are slowly, not problems, but just like future proving things. We're thinking about quantum security, meaning like making the chain quantum secure, and going down the route of scalability, depending on how successful we are, that we scale up the TPS and all sorts of things. So that's, I think, mainly, and keep on building on the features. At the end of the day, what will happen, I think, relatively fast is that the developer relations that we're building up right now are going to be fueling this. So it's very hard to kind of give you, from my point of view right now, like the next like 2 years or whatever, but the certain high level topics that are being discussed right now are centered around this. So future proving things ultimately, but the community is also doing that by their own accord. So I hope that answers the question. This year, I think the roadmap with everything you will find on the homepage, and we're going to go far more detailed because, like I said, the new strategy was only revealed like end of Jan. So you will now see a detailed roadmap in the next couple of weeks where you can go really, really deep. So
Nice.
just go to concordium.com.
Yeah,
you'll
yeah,
see that.
yeah, definitely. Guys, just go to concordium.com and as Boris says, like in a couple of weeks you will learn a lot more very interesting things in the next couple of weeks, and definitely try time will prove why Concordium is here and why is now is
Yeah.
the time for sure. Okay, so there's another two more questions to go. There's another question, this time is by Bikokoki. I hope I'm saying it right, but sorry if I'm not. So the question says, what is the long-term vision for the CCD token, and how does it plan to achieve mass adoption? We haven't mentioned much about the CCD, but yeah, what is the long-term vision and how it plans that mass adoption
I mean,
model?
look, CCD token is I would try to steer away of, like, if the question is somewhat price fueled, I of course won't answer. But look, it was everything that you've heard out of my mouth. Kiko, sorry, maybe if I pronounce it wrong as well. But look, it's about payments, payments. They make the world go round, and they need a solution in order for it to be finding real world adoption. And we're wanting, just like I said, in terms of like the long-term vision, I am not interested in solving for specific problems for stable coins that are being used on the existing ecosystem that is there. I am very much focused, and Concordium is very much focused on solving for problems that are very much known, but just simply haven't been solved for because of a hype-based economy in and around fucking meme coins. And that's ultimately it. So how do we get mass adoption is by actually solving for mass adoption. If the question was based around, will you see mass adoption for the usage on within that crypto atmosphere that we, or in that crypto ecosystem that we currently have, I will have to somewhat disappoint you. I think it will be used by default, but this is not the focus. The focus is to solve for real world problems, and payments is the way to go. Payments is the way to go in all its form. That is from traditional financial day-to-day payments, interbank payments, cross-border payments, trade finance payments, e-commerce, retail, in and around gambling, gaming, whatever else it is. Anything that you can think of needs that mechanism. And all I can say is kind of keep your eyes peeled over the next couple of weeks, because you will hear quite a lot about that.
Nice. Yeah, thank you, Boris. Then definitely it comes down to payments, as you mentioned at the beginning, for sure. Thank you so much.
Sorry, Marina. Sorry, because you said mass adoption.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Can
yeah.
I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for a lot of people, mass adoption is based on the fact of, like, what's currently, like, they're thinking they're in the current paradigm. What we're trying to do is still live in the current paradigm, but try to shift it. So this is not. I have no interest in figuring out of how to compete against the likes of Solana and Ethereum in the ecosystem that they're currently in. They made this themselves, right? And it goes so la la, right? I think people expected a little bit more. But ultimately, what it comes down to is, in terms of adoption, is not something that you magically, something that's not something that you generate. It's something that happens. So you need to kind of strategically position yourself accordingly, and that's how you solve for mass adoption. And when I say mass adoption, I don't mean crypto native mass adoption. I mean real world mass adoption, which is the one that is currently living alongside the crypto native industry, but is not in any shape or form integrated. If you actually think about it day to day, you tell me where proper adoption has occurred in whatever sector using blockchain or crypto for whatever. And you very quickly will come to the answer, nothing. And there is a reason for it. So my interpretation of mass adoption might be different to many others because it's far bigger.
I see. No, but thanks for defining that. What is your interpretation for sure? Because that will help to understand it better as well, and the purpose of Concordium for sure. Okay, let's go for the last question. I think this, yeah, definitely this is the last one, and we will kind of finish it off. This time is by Moops 2011. And it says they want to keep knowing a lot more about the future, I think, of your and those next 2 weeks, because they are asking about partnerships. It says partnerships are always the fundamentals of projects to success. What you share some could you share some partners you're working with to develop the project? So again, maybe you will just drop some teasers here, but maybe you can give us a name or something.
I mean, look, all you can do as a project is share your core USP. And the USP, attached with all sorts of like cool fucking features, just like I said earlier, an age verification, geofencing, whatever else it is, protocol level tokens, blah, blah, blah. And it comes down to the fact of like, I understand, and I think everybody does, that partnerships are those things that fundamentally mean make or break projects. Let me put it this way: I'm extremely confident because issuers literally jumped on this because it solves for their day-to-day problem. Like none of them has actually addressed their problems. So, if you look at the homepage and you see that we are the protocol for stablecoins, that's what we are. I can tell you that's what we are. So just keep your eyes and ears peeled. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I won't be able to. I'm just simply not giving you all the names. You will hear that soon enough. The other thing, what I would suggest you do is look towards the April town hall. We have a town hall that we're going to do in April. I don't know if we've fixed the date yet. If somebody of the team is on here as well, just maybe let me know if there is a date that I can mention. I'm waiting for somebody sending me a message, but I'm not seeing one. But in a nutshell, like we have an April town hall. There is another one that you can maybe listen into. From last month, which was very much technology focused. It's very good for you to also meet Peter, who's a lovely chap. And the next one is going to be purely commercial focused. So you want to have announcements. This is it. Oh, I just got a message. April 16th at 3:30 UTC. You will be able to join the Concordium town hall. This is an internal. Only people like management, meaning myself. You will meet Mike as well. A wonderful face. And you basically have the ability to kind of learn everything in terms of like partnerships and anything in and around commercial roadmap and announcements, etc., what we're solving for and what the feedback has been and is from the world to our strategy. So yeah, April 16th, 3:30. Marina, I have to say thank you to you as well, because I think you constantly like pushed our Discord channel and like X and everything else. Very much appreciated. Follow us there. We're very active now with regards to letting people know what's going on. So yeah, 16th of April, town hall, tune in. You'll get it hot off the press.
Nice. Thank you so much, Warren. Definitely, guys, April 16th, it's a D date. So just stay tuned, as definitely in 2 weeks, as Boris said before, like everything's going to be announced in 2 weeks, and that's absolutely amazing that now we have a date. So just in case, just stay tuned for everything. As I mentioned before, and Boris said as well, you guys can join the community, Concordium community, on X, on Telegram, Discord channel, Medium page, LinkedIn page as well. You guys can go and check it out. But April 16th is the day that you really need to pay attention. And of course, it's been a pleasure to talk to you, Boris. Really, really interesting and very nice talk. I hope everyone here as well enjoyed it and have a good time learning a lot more about Concordium. And definitely, as you mentioned, this is now the time of Concordium, and definitely the time will prove why you guys are here. So we are very happy that you guys are part of the Gate.io family now. So thank you so much for having this talk with me.
Thank you very much, Marina. Thank you, Gate. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, follow us. We're going out of our way in order to make sure to incorporate feedback. We're very, very active on that front. Thank you, Gate, for having us. And yeah, speak again soon, I guess.
Definitely. It's our pleasure. So guys, whatever you're in the world, thank you so much for tuning in. It's always a pleasure. My name is Marina. I'm your host. And I hope I can bring you more AMAs very soon. Remember that you can go also to Gate.io Live X account to give us some love. You can follow us there as well. And that's it. Thank you so much for staying tuned. It's been a significant AMA, but it passed really fast. So I hope you enjoyed this as well. So yeah, have a very good day, guys, whatever you're in the world, and hear you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.